disk too slow error. So let's hope that we.
Oh man.
Let's hope we're not sunk.
Can you speed your disc up? Can you overclock it?
There should be a crank, right?
Yeah, it's like you build it up.
Well, this time I'll just watch for it because last time that happened,
Did we drop out?
we didn't know how much we had lost at the time. So at least this time, if I see it pop up, I'll. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what to do. Disk too slow. Do you guys?
Is there anything else running?
I've never seen that before.
I mean, I've seen that once before. Remember, there was one time when we were recording, and we realized after we had been recording for a little bit that we'd lost a chunk, and then we just started up again. But I don't remember.
But there's no other apps running, no browser tabs, nothing?
No, the only thing that's running is this computer is getting slowly, sadder. This 7-year-old laptop is somehow not standing up to the demands of today.
I literally had been Googling and Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay. I need a new laptop bad. Mine's the late 11 model, and it's chugging. It's fine. The battery doesn't hold a charge, but it works. But it's like I need a new laptop.
Aaron
badly
needs one too.
Like Aaron keeps like, you need to get, because every time I come home I'm like, I can't unplug it from the wall because it dies instantly. Yeah.
Oh,
you know, and she's like, and I got like the cable draped across the couch. She's like, you gotta get that cable out of here. I'm like, well, I guess I need a laptop. I can't use it unless it's plugged in.
Right.
So at some point that becomes a real thing, though. That's like it feels like a weird luxury, but when it becomes a thing, you go, okay, no, I'm depending on this computer for a lot of stuff.
Yes,
it's a tool, man.
So technical issues. Let's hope we don't have any.
Hope we hit any.
Right now, the disk is apparently not running too slow. We have no read-write errors. We are recording, and we're also sitting across the table from each other for the first time in a while.
In the flesh. Hello, everybody.
How's it going, Steve?
It's going very well, John.
Thanks, Steve. See, this is like well-written dialogue. We're getting our names in with
well done, John.
A little more smoothly. Is anyone else? Oh, Ronald, you're here too.
Hello.
Our friend over there enjoying some sushi. That's Ronald right there.
Delicious. How's everybody doing?
It's kind of a special seafood edition.
Is that spice kicking in? I see that look at the ground a little bit. Like, don't inhale through your nose too heavily.
That's really good.
But Steve brought leftover sushi, and Ronald brought leftover sushi. Sounds like
it's
bad.
Not leftover. It's fresh.
It's just from earlier this evening.
I just purchased it an hour and a half ago.
We had some sushi in the back of the fridge.
The rice is very stiff.
It was in a cooler outside. I left out there over the weekend, and I was like, I guess I should probably eat it.
But Ronald also brought some steamed mussels. So this is kind of like...
smoked mussels.
Oh, smoked mussels. So this is the seafood edition of Movie Schmovie.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's also just a sort of a catch-up. It's been a while since we've been able to chat in general about what's going on in the world of entertainment. And a lot of movies have come and gone, some that we were looking forward to, and we didn't get a chance to talk about yet. So we'll try to find a little spot for all that stuff. And Ronald, I know life's been kind of kicking you in the ass lately. You haven't had a lot of time to watch movies.
No.
Steve and I are going to do what we can to include you as much as possible.
But here's the good part. I'm ready to watch movies. I'm probably going to go see a couple tomorrow. So
maybe after you talk to me and Steve tonight, you'll get an idea of how best to spend your non-dollars
here's the thing.
Through MoviePass.
This got very meta because I am listening as a fan on the podcast that we're recording.
Live.
As people are listening. So I'm taking in the
You'll have
information
already
just like the
decided
fans.
to see something when they're deciding what to see.
Get the fuck out of here.
Wow.
So Ronald,
Steve, get out of here.
You're going to be giving us an instantaneous fan reaction to Movie Schmovie for the first time ever.
Yeah. That's
so it's one
exciting.
of those things where, remember the guy, I think it was the Hair Club for Men, where he didn't just own the company, he was a customer? Was that the premise? So Ronald, you're not just a host of the podcast, you're also a fan of it.
I am.
How are we doing these days?
I'm all right.
I mean, the podcast.
We're all right.
He's like, that's what I meant.
Here's the listener complaint.
He's like, I'm all right. You guys, not so much.
Here's the user complaint.
All right, user complaint.
You guys need to put out more podcasts.
No, really.
That's literally what somebody said to me the other day. I'm like, we're trying to record them as frequently as possible. Yeah, fuck what you're saying.
Yeah.
Start doing some stuff.
Well, we snapped your fingers at you too.
Yes.
We missed last week, but I looked. I think we still had 2 episodes in June. And I do listen to some podcasts that are bi-weekly like that. And every now and then there'll be a month with like a 5th Friday or Tuesday in it, and they will sometimes take a bye week. So I feel like did I use that sports term properly? A bye week?
You did, man.
You're killing it, John.
I still don't know if it's a BYE week or a BU.
I have no idea.
Week
It's
or
a
a BY. Okay,
BYE.
like
BYE.
BYE.
Yeah, BYE. Bye.
I didn't know it was. But I thought it was like you bought No.
I always thought it was too, but I thought too, like you're buying yourself a week. Yeah.
You're buying yourself a week.
I could be entirely wrong. I
think you're right, though. I think it is BYE.
But that's
It
a
makes
great
more sense.
complaint. If we get the people want more, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
They
seriously.
want more sports in this podcast.
Yes.
So what it really is what your
Shout out to
meant.
Tehran who made the complaint.
Yeah.
I hadn't talked to him.
You know
in
what?
Months.
It's not a complaint.
It's a suggestion.
Feedback.
Suggestion.
Yeah, that's constructive criticism.
It's more of a request, actually.
I hadn't talked to him a couple of weeks. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Hey, put out some goddamn episodes, please."
I've gotten that from a couple people before, where they're like, "I'm about to go on a road trip, or I'm about to have this long commute. I need this."
Right,
you know.
right.
So
Right.
we're just trying to help you out. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this catch up, which we have to do, is going to be a bit of an epic. We're going to break it into 2 parts.
Yeah.
So we'll have an episode this week and next week, which is kind of going to catch us up and get us back in your good graces.
Right.
Hopefully, Tehran, is that the name?
Yeah, Tehran.
Hopefully,
man.
Tehran will be happy with that.
Yeah.
We're gonna give you 2 in a row.
Hope
Tehran.
you're doing well in North Carolina, sir.
Yeah. What part of North Carolina?
Fayetteville. He's actually a soldier.
Oh wow.
Soldier. A military man. He's been in there since 18, man.
Wow.
Jeez.
A lifer.
It's a lifer, man.
And he can retire.
Right. He's
Like-
gonna retire at like 38.
Yeah.
And be done with work.
And not just be done, but be set. You know?
Yeah, he's good for
That's
life.
so crazy to me.
And he's gonna have people thanking him for his service and shit.
Right.
Yeah,
Just
by the way,
randomly.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
How you feel about the people not just saying?
I'm not downplaying that. I just think that
Yeah.
like that's got to be a nice like podcasters. We don't get thanked for our service.
How you feel about the people that also stop and salute them?
Yeah.
That's intense, man.
Man.
Oh, here. Straighten your back up. It's
I
very
would
intense.
imagine that's got to be the most gratifying thing in the world, though. If you're a soldier and
pretty
someone
cool,
does that,
man.
like you could think that'd be too much, or that people would be like, "Oh, I don't want this." But I've
Right.
got to think that would be, even though I have a hard time myself taking compliments or taking positivity from
Yeah.
people. Sometimes I bet that you do sort of. You recognize that comes from a
Yeah.
real place when people want to say that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We should do the same thing for teachers.
Oh yeah.
I don't understand why that's not a thing.
Teachers need to wear uniforms.
Yeah. Thank you
I can't
for your...
identify them.
Yeah.
And they straighten their backs up just the same way that they do for other...
I need to know this is a 5-star biology
Yeah.
teacher.
Just carry apples in your pocket and just give apples out. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Throw it at them.
Chest hit.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, so as we work our way through tonight's movies that we're going to talk about, and Ronald, you get some ideas, hopefully. I mentioned before you might be using the MoviePass card, probably. Going to give that a workout.
Yeah.
And that kind of bears into one of our topics we wanted to get into, which is that in the last couple weeks, there have been a lot of news stories about, for instance, AMC kind of started this off by announcing that they have a service that sounds like a pretty good deal compared to MoviePass if you look at the few things that MoviePass does not get you.
Yeah.
And MoviePass has responded with some things that they might start rolling into the service.
Which is really cool.
And I've also been using MoviePass lately with their new thing where you have to take a picture of your stub.
Oh, okay.
And
How's
you get
that
a
been
scary message. If I had one time where I took a picture and I didn't notice that somehow it didn't take, but I put my phone back in my pocket, and I used my ticket stub as I just absentmindedly to wad up some gum that I was chewing during the movie. And then later,
I used it as a snack or
well,
something.
I do eat paper.
Eat my paper.
I do eat paper. In fact, I have an episode.
You were
of,
like
I have an episode of Weird Addictions coming up.
putting it towards his mouth. Like, you eat paper.
No, not just paper tickets. I eat tickets.
Yeah.
I'll eat a parking ticket right in front of a cop sometimes, that's white privilege for you. I can do that. But
I'm done with this. Fuck this ticket.
Thanks for the snack.
I pay your salary.
Oh,
But,
God.
But
That's
after
pretty
the movie, I
intense.
got this scary message that was like, you didn't send in a picture. And then I got an email that said, if you do this more than once, then they reserve the right to cancel your account.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Or to freeze it or something.
Okay, gotcha.
I think you could probably send them an email that would say,
Yeah.
here's why, and they would let you off. But still, after the problem you had getting your credit card changed,
Yeah.
I felt like the MoviePass system, maybe it's gotten better since then, but they do seem like there are still a lot of little pieces within that company that seem to be getting worked out. So I guess, I don't know, let's just open
Yeah.
it. Does anybody have a quick overview of what the AMC service offered? Do you remember what
Oh,
some of the
damn
things
it.
were that made it special? I'm afraid to check anything on my computer because...
So it's just like their Stubs Plus, I think it's called, or something. It's $20 a month.
Yeah.
It's 3 movies a week.
That's pretty
So
damn good.
roughly 12 a month if you wanted to do that.
including 3D,
Yeah, and
including
that's
IMAX.
that's the catcher.
Can be 3 on one day.
And you can buy your tickets in advance, pick your seats in advance, book it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Buy them together. Whatever you're doing, you can do that with that service. So, it's definitely taking and acknowledging the measured success that MoviePass has had, and trying to compete with it, try to shut it down. AMC has been like the biggest opposition to MoviePass, really,
Right.
since they rolled out roughly this time last year with the price drop. But
Right, they were the first theater that, or maybe the only big chain that sort of had certain, that sort of said we're going to have some locations that won't accept
take
this.
it, yeah.
And MoviePass, it always was unclear to me whether that was MoviePass or AMC that was really taking the hard line on that. But now that you see that AMC may have been readying this Stubs Plus thing, maybe they knew all along.
I mean, I think they're kind of sitting back and waiting for the time to strike, to be honest with you. I mean, because Cinemark rolled out a version of it, which is, I mean, you know, I like those theaters in this area, but their plan is kind of like a joke compared to these.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
It's a better deal if you look at what they're like. It's $8.99. It comes down to a ticket for $8.99, which might be half the price of a ticket in some instances, but it just doesn't. It doesn't have the sort of I can see all the movies I want feeling that you get with MoviePass, or the you can go like. The idea of seeing 2 or 3 in a day is appealing to me because sometimes I will have a Saturday or a Sunday where I can just disappear and watch some movies.
And say if you want to watch all IMAX ones.
Yeah.
Say you want to watch IMAX. I mean, that's a pretty amazing thing.
So did MoviePass just prove that there's a future in this kind of thing?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And do the market research for AMC, who already has, even though the Stubs program is nothing like MoviePass, AMC has had years of some form of an incentive program. They've had time to build up this infrastructure. They've had time to build up memberships and cards. And so I wonder if that's just AMC was like, let's do this. Because if you look at how you use a MoviePass card, 3 movies in a week might be about as much as you would actually do unless you're just a person who lives next to a theater and has nothing but time.
Right. And the cool part about, I mean, I guess the MoviePass thing that is promising to me, I've never seen a company respond this quickly to competition. I've never, whatever, you know, you can say what you want about MoviePass, but their response to this is immediate almost. Like, have you seen it before? I've never seen any company say, okay, you have a set. Well, what?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, you're right. It is. It has
really
been very quick. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird though because, like John just mentioned, like they kind of did this research preemptively, and they've taken a massive like hit financially to just to be sustainable.
Right.
You know, in terms of their primary shareholders and like, you know, selling off bonds to finance the next, you know, 2 to 3 months of existing. So it's like every day you see articles coming out. It's like, is this the end of MoviePass? It's like, will it live or will it die? I mean, I don't know how long it's going to last. I mean, I hope it continues because I have a membership. I paid the annual membership, so you know, I guess if it went under, I'd lose out. But I guess what the most interesting thing to me is to circle back to what you said is that they have proven that this is a model, just like Netflix is a model that has kind of upended how we intake media in that format, whether it be Netflix on TV, quote unquote, initially. But now, you know, these movies and chains and theaters and, you know, the whole experience of going to the cinema, they've proven that it's going to change. And the fact that it's changed this much in a year, that's a really quick timetable.
Yes.
You know, the fact that Cinemia, MoviePass, Cinemark, AMC now all have monthly paid subscription models to see movies without ever paying full price for a ticket.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
In a year that happened.
And
MoviePass
MoviePass
existed for like 2-3 years prior to that price drop, and they were barely a blip on the radar.
Yeah.
You know, you have that entry point for that model, and now they've set it. It may not be sustainable at that price point, but it's probably very much different for AMC at $19.95 a month when they own all the theaters and they own the infrastructure and they can give access to every showtime at every one of their theaters to people that subscribe to that program. Where MoviePass, it's almost all theaters, it's almost all movies. You know, and now they're trying to adjust it, like Ronald said, where they've, you know, you can upcharge for certain things, or you can add on to this or add on to that. But the only thing that worries me about it is that it's so on the fly, and that makes me a little nervous that like they're not sure exactly how to package what the subscription is going to be, because it's going to get real fucking confusing if you have a $9.95 plan and you have to upcharge for the IMAX 3D that happens to be on a Friday night, so they're going to hit you with surge pricing that, you know, you can't buy in advance because, you know, it is whatever.
Boy, is that a surprise when you're looking at times on Thursday night now and it gives you weekend night prices.
Yes.
And it's like, you go, oh, I didn't want to spend $18 on this
Exactly.
movie, you know?
It's weird.
Craziness.
And it's cool that they're responding so quickly because I'm sure they knew they had to.
Movie tickets are like Amazon prices now. You see what you would have paid if you didn't have MoviePass or these other services. Recommended retail price for a movie ticket.
So apparently people that are a part of this A-list sort of deal, each dollar spent with a membership translates to 100 AMC stub points. 5,000 brings you a $5 credit.
Right.
So you on top of that
Are
earning points that you can buy tickets for other people.
And or concessions with.
And don't they give you swag too? Sometimes don't they?
Yeah.
Sometimes
They
you have
swag,
certain
yeah.
promotional
I
things.
have the Stubbs membership as it is. Like, I don't have this new thing. I have the thing where I pay like $12 or $15 a year.
Yeah.
So it gets you discounts on concessions. It gets you like free upgrades on like from a small to a medium or a medium to a large. But I don't know. It's going to be. I'm really interested. I mean, like I said, I have the annual membership through I think the end of the fall. I think is when it actually processed because of all the crap they had. They couldn't get it going. But I mean, I would be open to the AMC policy, the AMC one in the future, if to see what MoviePass ends up doing. Because in that scenario, not that I'm the guy that wants to go on opening night every time, because I would prefer to be in an empty theater, to be honest.
Yeah.
But like that scenario would kill me.
I love that we now want an empty theater with a recliner.
Yeah.
And a little tray.
The AMC Owings Mills got their renovation, and their recliners have heated seats.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, so give me that too.
That's amazing.
But, it's just that scenario that makes me nervous. It's just like, hey, Aaron, let's go see the new whatever movie Friday night. Well, let's go there and check in. Oh, shit, there's not two seats together. Oh, in this one there is. We got to upcharge for the 3D that we don't even want to see. Yeah. And it's Friday night. It's just...
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
I don't want that on my mind.
Right.
And that's how AMC needs to market it, because that peace of mind is worth $10 a month to me.
Well, I mean... Yeah. I haven't run into the problem of MoviePass not getting me into IMAX showings and stuff, because the times when I go to see a movie and I'm looking for the IMAX screening, our tickets for Ant-Man and the Wasp were purchased a few days ago.
Not through MoviePass.
Right. Yeah. Solo, I bought those tickets a week or so in advance. But as MoviePass adds these other features that it sounds like you might be able to add a second person or have some sort of a discounted second thing based on how MoviePass has handled these things.
Yeah.
I worry that there's going to be this moment of stress and fear until you're standing inside and everyone's ticket's been torn, that somehow this wasn't legit or somehow we got charged too much. But thus far, all that has worked smoothly. Like, I've been impressed almost every time that I get up there, that like if I had a problem with the app or I've had a problem with the kiosk, it ends up being fine.
Yeah.
But I haven't.
Me and Aaron, we've never had a problem when we've gone to see a movie.
Yeah.
But I can see a situation where, it can be problematic when there are so many options and variables happening.
Right.
Like the add-on a person or peak pricing or 3D IMAX upcharging. Like, that just like takes like the whole experience to a different level, where you're not just experienced going to the movies and sitting down and getting popcorn and like having one of my favorite things to ever do in life is go to a movie theater, and like that kind of stress would not be worth it to me.
The good part is since it's a $10 tier, and you probably won't be going to that many premieres necessarily,
right.
But you'll probably be doing more weekend stuff. I
mean, it's just
like
for my situation, I foresee it being like I just want to really see like. I guess what I'm ultimately saying is I feel like MoviePass, as quickly as they're responding and they feel so dynamic about this stuff, I don't know that they genuinely know what they want the model to be.
No.
Because now they have to see what everybody else's, what cards they're holding.
Mm-hmm. I think what's
it's weird.
Cool about, bad but good is, this is the ultimate beta test. We are beta testers.
For sure.
And this is the first time that I've ever bought into an idea where something's kind of organically changing. Your input is directly affecting the way that they put out the business. That is not, if they abide by that idea and they make the communication clear, it could be Netflix for this situation.
Like,
it could go crazy. Once it hits a level of ease of use, it's going to sell itself. But it's not there yet. It's obviously not there.
I think the biggest competition they have is AMC right now.
Yeah.
The Cinemark,
it's a cool idea.
Like, there's other things that exist that are there. But the AMC one, because it's AMC, and they have the most theaters, and they have recently, especially, this whole effort nationally to do the renovations in all the theaters, and especially here in our market in Baltimore, they've done all the theaters over, and they're super nice now.
Right.
Like the situation you're talking about, like where I normally buy the Ant-Man ticket beforehand, like with their plan, you could have done it, and it would have been a part of your monthly price.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like that mentality is what they're trying to bank on, and their branding, their marketing, like what they're going to do with it. It should be interesting. Instead of
In fact,
just,
if I love
attacking MoviePass, it's like, don't worry about MoviePass now. Like this is why this is so valuable. If you come and live near AMC cinemas, especially, like it's somebody, it's a no-brainer.
But of course, for the person who doesn't live near an AMC, it's a non-issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you just said about that, guys, except Ronald. I take issue with the whole idea. If you're calling me a beta tester, are you saying I'm some kind of fucking cuck?
Definitely a cuck, man. We're
Okay, all right,
MoviePass
okay.
cucks. We're MoviePass cucks.
We are cucks, guys. But but because by definition, right now, a cuck is anyone who isn't boycotting Star Wars because of its social justice agenda that it's trying to cram down our throats, which is my version of a segue into our next topic, which is toxic fandom, which has become such a thing.
It's pretty bad
in the world out there right now. I don't know if you've been following the story, Ronald, of the guys on Twitter, or the person on Twitter who posted it's like a plea to Disney to hear him out for his pitch.
The cut of the movie.
They want to do a fans like crowdsourced script and shoot a remake of The Last Jedi because they say that The Last Jedi didn't respect true fans of the franchise. And they're actually saying to Disney, but anyone listening, you should see Ronald's face. It's actually drooping. It's melting off of his skull. But it's the level of entitlement that is hilarious and scary. But it's part of this wave we've seen recently. We see it a lot. We see a lot in relation to DC movies. It seems like where there's like a war between the fans and then the sort of mainstream perception of this thing.
Snyder Cut.
Yeah, release the Snyder Cut.
Release it now.
One day on our Facebook page, I posted a picture of the protest. Remember the Snyder Cut protest? There's like 9 people holding a banner that says "Release the Snyder Cut." I posted that on our Facebook page one day with a comment that said something like, "Look at these losers" or something. But every now and then, Facebook suggests like you can boost this ad. Here's an ad that people will see, and it just says "Movie Schmovie," and it's just the banner of people saying "Release the Snyder Cut." So I was like, okay, no. But yeah, so this idea of fans, the ownership that they have over these things, it really seems like it's reached its apex with Star Wars, and it comes at a time where Solo underperformed at the box office for a Star Wars film, and it has everyone realizing that this franchise is more vulnerable than they thought. Like they thought, always seemed to think Star Wars was just a license to print money. And there's a lot of scuttlebutt about really what was going on there. I think we talked about whether saturation, whether it's too soon after a Star Wars movie to put out a Star Wars movie, only 5 months. Yeah. Even though Marvel and DC are trying something a little bit like that. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that fan reaction? And do you think it really has a bearing on the fate of a movie like Solo? Do you really think that what was missing from Solo's box office was the buy-in of this monumental fan base that was going to go see it again and again? Or do you think that is a blip and these guys are entitled if they think their little boycott has done anything to affect this giant money-making machine?
I don't know. I feel like they probably inform one another, but I kind of feel like the whole boycott Last Jedi thing is its own thing, and I think that
or remake Last Jedi.
The stupidest thing.
The underperforming of Solo is like another thing.
Yeah,
which I think is more in line with the saturation, and it's interesting though. To me, my take on it is that the Star Wars movies I don't feel like are as broad as what Marvel has been able to do.
You're right.
I feel like because it is like the sci-fi franchise, that there is, even though Tom Cruise made sci-fi only 5 years ago.
Just invented it. I mean, I'm looking at you with like, yeah,
he's dead serious.
Cruise he just cold invented it.
Tom Cruise.
That's it. Done and done.
But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like even though it is like the benchmark for sci-fi and franchises and IP that exists now and will forever, probably. I think that Marvel and I guess DC to a certain extent and what they are planning on doing, I think it's succeeding a little more, specifically with Marvel, which literally seems like bulletproof, is because I feel like those movies kind of reach a different and broader audience than Star Wars does, even though Star Wars are monumental films, and their drive of the box office is so reliant on their hardcore fans, the casual fan, but also repeat viewing and all this like ownership that you're talking about with The Last Jedi and, that backlash and the want to remake it. So I don't know. I feel like Solo underperforming is a little bit more of a casualty from the realization that these movies just can't come out every 5 or 6 months. And most importantly, among all those other movies coming out every 5, 6 months, whatever it is.
Yes.
You know, when Solo comes out, 2-3 weeks after Infinity War and Deadpool 2, and then Solo, and then a week after that, Jurassic World or whatever. It's like, of those, like, in today's world, like, almost the sure bets are the other 3 movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I think you're right.
which
I think
is
Star
crazy,
Wars is
it's
nerdier.
too much.
Star Wars is nerdier.
Yeah,
It is.
And
nerdy.
I think that,
It's because of the voices, John.
well, but it's also just the sci-fi, the robots, the creatures,
Yeah,
the
it's
everything.
because people are like talking like.
But I mean, I think it's what
Yeah.
we love about it, if we love it, which is that
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
it's old-fashioned and it's not ashamed of its kind of nerdiness. But I think it's interesting that, like, I remember when Solo was getting mediocre reviews, and I saw people saying, "No, this is strange," because they're used to these Marvel movies that all get these high Rotten Tomatoes scores,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And again, we know those scores are fallacious, but even the Metacritic scores are generally above average for Marvel
They're-
movies.
I mean, they're all, they're high.
And when Solo was getting these kind of C70s into the 80s, depending on where you were, like in that initial week of all the reviews showing up.
Yeah.
And people were saying, "Oh my God, this movie is not getting these great reviews." And I wanted to say, when I grew up as a Star Wars fan, it wasn't something to be proud of. It wasn't something where you could go into whatever the equivalent of Hot Topic was and find the shirts, and it wasn't like, you know what I mean? It wasn't this. It was a bit of a thing to say, kind of to whisper, to say, well, I like Star Wars. If you were a grown up, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I think now we're in this era where these tentpole movies, these fun popcorn movies, are also expected to be 4-quadrant hits and expected to be good movies. It's kind of a new thing that people want this shit to be good. We've talked a lot about how Marvel kind of turned around the perception in a lot of ways of what the superhero movie would be, that now people expect goodness.
Yeah.
But I think that idea of a mainstream audience being much more ready to go in and see the latest Captain America, the latest whatever, it feels more grounded. Yeah. Even Guardians of the Galaxy feels more grounded, I'm sure, to that audience than, say, Star Wars does, because it comments on itself. And I don't want Star Wars to wink at the audience and comment on itself and hang a lampshade on how weird this all is. But I think Guardians kind of snuck in there and got that slot. So now Marvel has something it can do. It's funny that it's all under Disney's banner.
Yeah.
But so I do think you're right, Steve, that Star Wars has to maybe adjust the budgets, adjust the expectations, maybe do allow a little bit more surprising filmmaking ideas and styles into this. Because Solo was, by all accounts, everyone I've talked to pretty much liked or loved it. It's a fun movie. It's kind of weird that this is the movie that showed us the vulnerability of this franchise, because it's by no means the weakest Star Wars movie that's ever come out.
At all.
And in fact, it felt positioned to really set off these new actors in these roles and a whole new pocket of the world that I don't think we'll get to see now, or at least we won't see it maybe the way they were intending to do it.
Right.
Have you guys witnessed at all Ron Howard on Twitter and what a gentleman he is?
He's amazing.
Like, people will post shitty things and tag him about it. I wouldn't go see Solo after the garbage that was The Last Jedi, da-da-da. And he'll say, I hope you give us a chance.
Yeah.
Or someone will say, I hated Solo. And he'll say, thanks for seeing it on the big screen. You know, and recently,
That's pretty amazing.
talking about the fan entitlement, I recently saw someone that tweeted him something to the effect of, like, they were apologizing to him. Like, I'm sorry that I have boycotted Solo because of The Last Jedi, and I'm sorry that your movie is the one that bore the brunt of our statement against Disney's treatment of the fans, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote back like, oh, I think you would enjoy it if you caught it in theaters. It's still out, you know? And I was just like, man, this guy, and even Rian Johnson has done a good job of staying upbeat despite all the shit he gets. He gets shit. I mean, he can't post anything without people saying, you ruined Star Wars, you idiot. And then Kelly Marie Tran, who played Rose in The Last Jedi, was run off of Instagram. So, I mean, clearly these fans... And did you see what Christopher McQuarrie said? He just basically said, I used to fantasize about making a Star Wars movie one day, but not anymore, after Rian Johnson tagged him in something. And Christopher McQuarrie said, in the 5 minutes between I got untagged in that thread and when I got tagged, I saw what Rian Johnson tastes all day.
Right.
And I wonder why he has not quit social media, you know.
He said he gained like 6,500 followers on Twitter after he tagged him in that. It was like it was a nice thing. That Rian Johnson was doing. It's like, if you follow filmmakers and like you want good advice, follow, you know.
He said filmmakers like to give advice on Twitter, but you really should be listening to people like Christopher McQuarrie.
And like he was like, you know, this just watching what he's done and watching what he's endured, like it's really kind of like taking the sail out of, you know, the wind out of my sail isn't to want to ever do a Star Wars movie.
Yeah. I mean,
which fucking sucks.
It does suck, man.
Because I think Christopher McQuarrie could probably do a pretty good Star Wars movie.
Oh,
However,
yes.
I also wonder if he's also sort of saying, maybe he's aware too. People are ready to see something other than a white guy at the head of a Star Wars movie. So maybe in addition to Rian Johnson and Benioff and Weiss and Jon Favreau, maybe Christopher McQuarrie recognizes, that panel's starting to look like nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, it's not about a quota. It's about storytellers, and Christopher McQuarrie is a really good storyteller, and I'm really looking forward to Fallout. So,
well, I was just gonna say, related to all of this. I mean, it's simpler to me. Marvel has men in tights, muscular men in tights fighting each other. It is wrestling to people. Like it's like what wrestling is to people. That's what the Marvel movies are to people. It's the drama. It's literally the same.
Like
thing.
who's friends with who?
Who's friends with who?
Who turned on who?
Who's the heel?
Who's dating who? Yeah. Who's the heel, brother? And people switch up all the time. That's wrestling. And Star Wars is essentially what Game of Thrones is to people. It's these complex relationships and faraway worlds and people coming to other people to conquer places. And that stuff to some people is very hard to digest.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is. I don't know. And again, like I said, the voices. If you listen to the voices in the Marvel movies, hey, I'm gonna beat your ass. And Star Wars has these
Marvel
like
movie.
Star Wars has these like.
That's the one
That was Scarlett Johansson. Did you get that?
Wow.
It's something about.
He's always been great with impressions.
Yeah, it's something about that. It's masculine energy to people. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not saying that Star Wars isn't masculine. I'm not saying it, but it's on a cursory
We're
look.
about to be the victim of a Star Wars backlash.
I know.
They're
on a
gonna
cursory,
podcast.
on a cursory.
I wonder if within our, dozens
be.
of listeners, we have
Has to
if
be.
we have any entitled angry fanboys that are just mad at us for not hating on The Last Jedi or hating on Solo or hating on
And they're
whatever.
like,
Star Wars
he's just these three cucks talking about.
I just don't
Star
understand
Wars.
what the whole idea is with like being into stuff that you don't like. Or not liking the stuff that you're into. I mean, the line that I always hear is that nobody hates Star Wars like a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And that's so true. It's so true in that, and it's funny that we're talking about these like Marvel, and I would say Fast and the Furious, and actually a movie we're going to talk about in a minute, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, the Jurassic Park
I'm sorry,
series. But the box office of Jurassic Park is relatively nerd proof. It's kind of fan proof. It's like people want to see dinosaurs, they want to see chases, they want little kids like to see
It's the
dinosaurs.
broader audience that Marvel has.
People want to see people in cool outfits fight in the Marvel movies. People want to go
fight
see a James
monsters.
Bond movie. People want to see cars jumping over jets or whatever's going to happen in the next Fast and the Furious movie. Those movies don't have that weird barrier of entry buy-in where you feel like you are aligning yourself with these people who show up in costume. And I'm not knocking nerd culture in that sense or people who buy into it in that way, but I think you can see the fact that toxic fandom is not just a little buzzword. I mean, it's a legit topic. You'll hear it evoked a lot now.
Yeah.
I think you can overestimate it. I don't think these fans have the power to change the fate of a franchise like Star Wars, but I do think this notion of what are you in it for? Like, why do you hate movies? Do you not want to go see a movie and meet it on its own terms, enjoy it for what it is, rather than having this intense... Like, if you ever follow one of these threads on Twitter, Ronald, which I don't recommend it, but if you do... There's no irony. There's no humor. There's no sense of how ridiculous they sound when these people talk about, no, I believe that if I've grown up loving this thing, that I should have a say, and if you didn't make me happy, you're doing something wrong. And it's just like, well, maybe it sounds like you don't like this new era of Star Wars too much. There's lots of reasons, filmically, story-wise, whatever, to say I have an issue with this or that, but to have this reaction against it, and the whole idea that it's got a social agenda, I would hate if this person actually encountered something that had an agenda to it.
Yeah.
Star Wars is trying to get everybody under the tent,
I think what he or she is confusing with a social agenda or whatever is just society changing.
Yeah.
It's just...
It's not 1970 whatever anymore.
If you aren't on board with minorities being in Star Wars, you need to dig yourself a grave.
Yeah.
Hop in that bitch. It's just very strange that... What are we talking about?
Well, the difference between the audiences, too, like this nerd culture like John is mentioning, is that, like, the franchises like Fast and Furious, Jurassic, the Marvel stuff, like people are along for the ride to see what the story is, not what they want the story to be. And like the Star Wars stuff is becoming that.
It is.
And they've like, the fact that they like have such entitlement and ownership over these properties that they think they can say, we're pitching remaking this movie.
The true fan.
Yeah, the true fan.
That's like, when you hear people evoking that. The true fans don't like these movies.
I don't even know what that even means.
It's extreme.
You think it's a vocal minority, though? You think it's a vocal minority on Twitter, for instance? Or do you think that's a huge chunk of people that like Star Wars?
No, I don't know for sure. I mean, obviously, I think it's probably
Steve,
more,
you will answer this question definitively.
I honestly think it's more of like a social media minority.
Okay.
Like extreme though.
Or that what social media does is kind of
Amplifies it.
It does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even people that I know that saw Last Jedi, maybe they didn't love it, maybe they didn't like it at all. You know, they still saw Solo.
Yeah.
Most people I know did.
They're not crusading against it.
Exactly. There's not like it's just like my least favorite Marvel movie is X, but I still see every fucking Marvel movie.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like most people are like, yeah, I didn't love Last Jedi. Like, oh, I love The Force Awakens. Rogue One was, it's like they're having conversations about the fact that they still are seeing the movies.
Yeah.
You cannot like that movie. It doesn't mean you don't want to see the next one.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like the conversation, while they cross, the whole Last Jedi extreme stuff is a little more in a vacuum in my mind than Lucasfilm re-gearing and retooling what they're doing for all this other Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because of the Last Jedi thing, personally. I think it's more of like a realization that these aren't as bulletproof as we thought they were in terms of box office.
Which I think is kind of a cool lesson.
Especially
now.
Very true.
Before they've we're in the early stages of this.
They don't have another movie for a year and a half.
Yeah,
they have
right.
plenty of time to hit the ground running with episode 9 and have it look as graceful and as effortless as anything. And they won't have to scramble. They're not DC, where every day you see a headline that makes it sound like what's going on over there.
Announcing a new thing.
Yeah. This story is rebooting this character, but it happens in the existing continuity, and we're going to recast. And you just go, okay, DC, what are you doing?
No, I think the combination of the Last Jedi stuff that you're referring to, and then Han Solo, and then the complaints, I think that collectively has become a thing that's helped them retool. Because there's nothing worse than them being like, because before the first one, they're like, the first one did fucking incredibly.
Destroyed.
Yeah. And then they're like, okay, so they're complaining online. The numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
Now they're like, they're not quite the same.
Yeah. So I hope that within the studio they recognize that the sort of risk they took by telling a smaller story, by telling a different story, by getting away from Skywalkers and Jedi and prophecies and good versus evil, that those things actually worked. It's all the stuff we're talking about surrounding that.
I just think that this is one of those movies that's it needs some time to breathe. I think video on demand, I think eventually, I mean, if Disney doesn't snatch that shit, once it comes to Netflix, I'm telling you, video on demand.
Disney's going to snatch that shit from Netflix.
Yeah, I think, but video on demand is when that thing is going to breathe, man.
How crazy is it that you're defending the need for Solo to catch on video on demand?
That's nuts.
Isn't that crazy? I don't disagree with you.
We're in an alternate world, man.
I don't disagree with you, man.
Yeah,
this is crazy. And some people would say this is the dark timeline.
It's strange, man.
It's weird that that's what it is.
Who would ever think that we would have it?
It's wild.
I watched Solo and thought it was. I'm like, what the fuck are people talking about?
Right.
It's
not the mind blowing movie that maybe people.
I don't think it was supposed to be. I personally don't think it was supposed to be like.
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to be within reason.
It's like a throwback. It was supposed to be like a swashbuckling thing that reminded you of the fun.
I thought for what it did, I thought it fucking succeeded. I don't know what.
Yeah, we all liked it.
What were they watching?
I don't know. It's a weird thing, man. I think one of the big things too that really gets me about Solo, and I'll defend it because I enjoyed it. But even beyond the quality of the movie, I think a really jarring statistic is how well it and even Last Jedi performed overseas.
Yeah,
because that's something that a lot of articles points out, because a lot of these movies, like the franchise that we keep bringing up, that aren't really being affected negatively. It's almost like a half and half factor of total box office, domestic versus overseas. Yeah. And the Star Wars movies, for whatever reason, they don't do that great internationally. Mm-hmm. Force Awakens did, but The Last Jedi was dropped significantly from Force Awakens. This dropped significantly from Rogue One. Global. Solo will not make $500 million.
Right. It's strange, man.
And the number missing is not just here. It's the worldwide stuff.
Something else that we've kind of sidestepped here as far as why these fans are so mad is that when Disney bought it, they pushed away all this They basically said all these books and everything that had been coming
Right.
out that people loved weren't canon.
Yeah.
So I think that's where a lot of that anger comes from the fans who loved that stuff and
Right.
want these movies to follow that. But can you imagine how lifeless these movies would be if they were following books that were written a couple decades
Get outta
ago
here.
and having to line up with all that? I
That's
totally
crazy.
understand why they swept it clean, but I think that is the thing. That's where that obsessive,
yeah,
perverse
definitely.
ownership comes from. Is I loved this character and I read all these books and I read all these comics and I wrote fan fiction and I dressed up, and they just said no, doesn't exist.
Would be cool if
And I'm not defending that. I'm just saying I
Yeah.
think that's where that anger comes from.
if maybe the TV stuff served those people.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be really cool. I mean, even if it was like say if it was like outside of whatever the main story is.
Yeah.
If they still served those people, that population of people, maybe they had some animated series that served it. Maybe they had some more books that added on to that stuff. I think there has to be some sort of situation where they meet in the middle. Even if they don't do it in movie form, I think they're gonna have to serve those people, or they will try to burn that shit down. Through sabotage.
Well, like DC does it
Through
with
sabotage, man.
their CW shows and all that stuff,
Right.
where they have
And their
like
service-
the-
okay.
But people love those
Service.
shows. People that don't like the movies like the Flash
Right.
TV show, or
Yeah.
like what they're doing with Green Arrow or whatever.
I'm super excited about DC Online. We didn't talk about that, but
Yeah, I want to know more about that.
oh man, it looks so damn good. Cool.
But I also think that one of the things that makes Star Wars special is that it hasn't rebooted or updated. I mean, I know it cast away all that canon, but the
Yeah,
movies are
yeah.
still dealing with the same version of these characters.
I think that's cool as
And
hell,
I
man.
think that is something that I could see why Marvel or Lucasfilm right now is questioning how can we have all these different things and keep it all together.
Yeah.
I would hate to see Star Wars lose that sense that it is like a monomyth, you know, that it all holds together. But I do think maybe what you're talking about, they already do it with some of these animated shows
Yeah.
that are part of the story, but they don't feel like they're the same tone.
Right.
So maybe there's room for them to diversify in the future. And I really do think, and Ronald, you were talking about this, they spent way too much on Solo. When we were texting,
They
back
did.
and forth
I
about
wasn't
this.
trying to be
That
a jerk
budget,
about
No, that
it.
budget
I
sounds
wasn't trying to be a
insane.
jerk
But
about-
when
yeah.
we realized it was supposed to cost maybe 60% of what
Yeah.
it did before they did reshoots and
Right.
essentially reshot the movie, that I think is another factor that we're talking about as to why this movie
Yeah.
underperformed for what it was.
Yeah.
If it were making the same money it's making now, but it cost almost half as much, they could spin it as this was a scrappier Star Wars movie. You
Yeah.
can't spin a $250 million movie as a scrappy
No,
anything.
Yeah.
you can't. It's impossible. And the
Yeah.
fact that everything's so that's another thing too. Everything's so transparent now. So like the fact that people know the budget now, you would never know the budget.
Right.
I didn't know the budget of Jurassic Park.
No.
But I know the original.
Yeah.
I know the budget of Jurassic World. I know the cinematographer. I know you know these things. You find out these things, and it informs how you look at the movie.
It's a good lesson.
It's a good
like
lesson.
somehow that they're learning that they can't just put the name Star Wars on something and break box office records.
I mean, I don't want them to fail. I
I hate
want
it was
them
this
to win.
movie that
I
taught
hate
the
it.
lesson, but you know.
I hate it. I hate that it was this movie too, but kind of is what it is, I guess.
So speaking of franchises that are perhaps nerd proof in this way, and that they don't have this abiding fandom that's going to complain and scream and cry foul when the new one comes out and it doesn't fit their dream movie. We all saw Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom.
Okay.
The second movie in the Jurassic World trilogy, I suppose. There's a third one planned, and I think Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, it definitely tees up what the next movie would be.
Too Fast, Too Jurassic is what I call it. it's really, really, literally a breakout movie for whatever this is becoming.
Yeah.
It's morphing into something that's very different.
Yes.
Than what we've come to know
And
to be the
it's
Jurassic
shocking
Park.
that they're on the fifth movie and they are just now getting around to this plot development. I mean, I think it's all over the posters for this film, so we can at least say that this
Right.
movie attempts to get away from the island. It attempts to get away from the template of scientists on an island running around chasing dinosaurs and being chased by dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs.
But what did you guys think of Jurassic World as far as a movie and as how it fits in with the Jurassic World, Jurassic Park franchise?
I really liked the first Jurassic World. I mean, it wasn't perfection by any means, but it really did kind of set a tone for what I was expecting in, whatever the newer one was. Mm-hmm. The newer one didn't really strike me as a movie that I thought was really coherent. It wasn't coherent. It didn't feel like it had any bones. Like I couldn't tell. It felt like there was a commentary about cloning and DNA and research and taking on this
It's a
god
real stretch
complex.
to call anything in this movie a commentary, but
Yeah.
I know what you mean. It's like sketched in. Like,
It's like don't clone these.
don't clone dinosaurs. That's the lesson.
But there's something too. I felt a better movie would have had this kind of through line done well. Mm-hmm. It felt messy. The dinosaurs almost were human. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what that was. I thought that would have been cool for me.
Like they were the hero and villains.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was definitely a scene where a dinosaur smelled something.
You're so funny with this.
Said, "Oh shit!"
Smelled
and
that
started
gas.
running, and jumped, not facing the explosion.
Yeah.
Jumped right in time to be propelled forward into this 3D like. I've never seen a dinosaur say "oh shit" in a movie, but I think I saw one say "oh shit."
I think it's funny that what you're saying. I thought the same thing. The dinosaurs seemed to turn and read the thing that said "explosive gas," and it's like it actually made a noise like "oh" or something. I mean, it didn't, but there's something in there that made me go like that dinosaur. But I think that they wanted us to read it, and they wanted to imply that the Velociraptor was smelling it.
Yes.
But it looked like the Velociraptor read it and turned to look almost at the audience like, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. Why would a dinosaur know that gas would be a thing that would be a danger?
Oh, man. This is the second smartest animal on Earth.
Why would you apply logic?
Yeah.
Smart is a very catch-all. It's like
Yes.
He can also put his hand on a knob and turn it to the degree that it needs to go and gently push it open.
It's a clever girl.
What the
Well, I mean, Steve, you haven't said much. I know that the Jurassic Park franchise, I think, might mean more to you. I know as maybe our biggest Spielberg fan on the podcast. Sure. What have you thought of the way this has gone since they brought it back? And what do you think of whether Colin Trevorrow directed this or not? This still is definitely his trilogy because he wrote this script, and isn't he directing the next one?
Yes.
So they got Star Wars away from Colin Trevorrow, but they can't get the Jurassic franchise.
Maybe he ended up with the right one. I don't know.
What do you think of his take on this? Now that we've seen 2 of 3 chunks of story, are you into this?
I think I'm into it. I mean, I think they're silly.
Yeah.
I think it kind of it's getting kind of silly. Like it's kind of going that Fast and the Furious, like bigger, sillier, more entertaining. I guess is what they're saying. But I don't know. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of this film, but I'm definitely still interested in the franchise. I mean, I do have a spot for Jurassic Park as one of my all-time favorite movies, and I love Spielberg. And, I guess what happened in Jurassic World is like, trying to recapture what happened in Jurassic Park, much like The Force Awakens recaptures the New Hope, whole vibe.
Yeah, very much so.
It just didn't work for me as well as the Star Wars did. Force Awakens did. But I get what they're going for, and I get like the appeal, and and I think it worked on a lot of levels, as successful as that movie was, and bringing about this trilogy. I guess the thing that got me the most about this one, and I don't want to be guilty because I'm not going to be this fan that has this ownership. It was simply my expectation of the filmmaker attached to make this film. I love Jay Bayona. And I don't know, knowing that he was initially offered Jurassic World to begin with and couldn't do the first one, and then came back around to do the second one because of scheduling and stuff like that. It was really cool to see that announcement, and which I don't know. I guess I just thought it was gonna maybe take it a little different of a direction, even off of where Jurassic World left off.
Right.
Because there were some things in Jurassic World. I did like Jurassic World. I mean, like I thought it was really entertaining and really fun, and like Jurassic Park light to me. Like in most categories that I'd rate a film.
It's like they replaced real characters with action figures in these movies.
That's
and it's funny that what we're saying, we were kind of hinting at it earlier, that the Velociraptor is arguably a more interesting character than the human character.
Yeah.
What's Chris Pratt's character's name?
I don't know.
I happen to know it as Owen Grady.
You looked it up, didn't you?
You know what? I know it more from the Lego sets.
Okay.
Than the character.
There's like a thing on Twitter like that weekend it came out. It was like this, like if you can name the 2 human leads characters' names in
oh my god,
Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt's character's name.
We just named him.
No, in the movie.
When I'm watching the movie, I think, oh gosh, Chris Pratt's character, and Bryce Dallas Howard's
because
character.
That's who they are. Like they're playing themselves.
Yes.
Really. But it was just funny because I mean they're just not memorable. You know,
and they don't say that
the characters aren't memorable to me. And I mean, they're selling them as this great chemistry.
Right.
And, you know, they're fine.
They have a couple of nice
They
moments
have a couple
together.
moments. I like them both as
you know what though? It's
people
like a
and-
10-year-old boy's idea though of a cool guy.
Yes,
That's what Owen Grady is.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's what that character is. He's like lacking in. I mean, he's even like sketched in. They just have him. Oh, what would a cool guy be doing? Oh, he's building a house. You know.
Obviously.
and he's on the ladder as she approaches. Why would that ever happen?
Timing.
And he's actually talking to her and still working.
Yeah.
Which adds some comedy, I guess.
I don't know. But getting back to my point, I just thought that Bayona kind of being attached to the movie. One thing that really, like, I just didn't think worked in the first movie, and I also didn't think worked in this one, was just, like, the child actor performances. I was not a fan of.
What is it?
But
Stevie hates child actors,
But
bro.
his other movies, like, the kid performances are great in.
Yeah.
You know, like, in The Impossible, in The Orphanage, in A Monster Calls, like, the kids are always really good. And he's had a lot of comparisons to Spielberg in that piece of filmmaking. And I just, like, the young girl in this film, I just did not like at all. And I don't know. It was like that element I thought was going to be improved upon in this movie that it just didn't deliver to me. And I mean, I guess I thought a lot of the marketing kind of made it look a lot darker. And
I'd heard that it had a horror edge too.
And it does, I guess,
does.
in the last 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and all that stuff. All that stuff I actually thought was really cool. Like,
and different.
The bedroom stuff on top of the house, like, that's wild looking.
And that hasn't been in a Jurassic movie yet.
Yes. And you're right. It's different. It's darker. It's kind of scary. I like some of the shots of the Indoraptor.
I like the Indoraptor. I like that it was black with yellow stripes.
Yeah.
I like that it smiled in that one scene. That might be my favorite moment in the whole movie is when it showed, because that's intelligence, Ronald.
Nope.
You don't like a smile.
Nope.
Okay, see,
You're not gonna sell me on these people. These dinosaurs being
I want
people.
dinosaurs smiling and carrying machine guns and jumping out of. I want them to just go full crazy with this.
The only
series.
time I will really love this if the sequel to this is the dinosaurs, that TV show. If the sequel to Jurassic World, yes.
So it's all been one big thing connected to dinosaurs.
If the next movie is just the dinosaurs, upright, talking, not the mama.
Father, son,
not the mama. I will watch shit out of that movie.
I mean, I think I'm fine with them going crazy with this because they've done movie after movie where they keep going back to the island and they keep wasting these great actors, I think, in general. In every Jurassic Park movie, they've had somebody that you're like, wow. Yeah. And you look back and you go, oh yeah, Vince Vaughn was in one of these.
What?
William H. Macy was in one of these. Vincent D'Onofrio was in one of these. And this one, James Cromwell and Rafe Spall. Julianne Moore.
What?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, not in this one, I should be clear.
No, in one of these.
But and I guess now we're at the point where we're getting ready to wrap up this episode, part one of our epic catch-up. So I guess if you want to preserve your spoiler-free existence around Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, stop listening now, because I think in order to say a few more things, we kind of have to talk about where this movie leaves us and some of the things that happen in the last half.
Absolutely.
So this movie definitely has the first half that is all about going back to the island and kind of killing the island.
Yeah.
And I thought there was one really effective scene as they're pulling away from the island.
Yes.
The scene of the brontosaur or the brachiosaur on the pier, and it's the smoke from the volcano because there's been a volcano going off. The whole premise being the dinosaurs on the island need to be saved or not from a volcano, and there's some people that are brought in to save them, and then they're brought in under false pretenses, and there comes our second half of the movie. But the first half is they mark the demise of the island with this incredibly moving, I thought, inversion of the scene in the first Jurassic Park where we see a brachiosaur walk across frame, and it's the Jeep full, and it's Laura Dern and Sam Neill, and it's them like pushing their glasses off their face and looking up with wonder. And this movie has Bryce Dallas Howard killing a moment, I thought, where she is emotionally overcome when she sees the dinosaur on the dock. It was a visually beautiful way to say this is the end of the island and to remind you of the wonder, except it's a totally twisted version of the wonder. And it did feel like, oh, this is a little dark and a little creepy. And I liked that moment.
I got a little teared up.
Me too, man.
It was powerful.
It got me.
And the camera stayed on the dinosaur, which I've never
the lighting
wasn't expecting.
of everything blowing up, like kind of lighting up the different shadow.
And then as it rears up on its hind legs, as the smoke and the ash consumes it.
That was super sad.
And also, what else you get in that scene is the super low-tech thing that people know Spielberg does well, which is the actor looking at something.
That look. Yeah.
The warmth of Bryce Dallas's character, whatever she brings to that cartoonish role in this movie, it all came to bear in that moment.
Totally agree.
So great acting moment, great filmmaking moment. And then the movie settles into the second half, which is these people weren't saving the dinosaurs. They're auctioning them to rich people. And to me, again, that feels crazy and fun in a way that if the movie had started with the consortium of rich guys, bidding on dinosaurs, and if somehow our heroes got brought in some way, I think the movie could have been more economical with the way it did that plot. But what this movie definitely does with this last half is pivot to the thing we've been thinking they were going to get to since The Lost World, the first sequel, which is dinosaurs are here. People are going to have to deal with dinosaurs. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that ending? And do you think they needed to take a whole movie to pivot, like to kill the island and to set them loose? Or do you think they were cautious? And do you think one of the reasons why you guys are kind of underwhelmed by this movie is because they didn't just get to that idea and hit it running? Do you think they needed a movie to set that up? The idea that now dinosaurs are in America and people are going to have to deal with them.
I like that idea, but it was just executed poorly to me. Just because, I mean, for the first Jurassic World was a neater movie. It was a neater movie in first, second, and third acts. Like the transition between the two.
Right.
This felt like the only thing I could really compare it to script-wise was that Will Smith superhero movie. Hancock. You know the way that Hancock felt kind of fragmented? Yeah. Like it felt like from the first half of it to the second half, like what?
That movie was like torn apart.
Yeah. It felt like it was the first time I'd seen a movie in a while that I was like, what?
You could sense it.
Yeah. What am I watching? Like it feels like two scripts that they were just like, this idea was the original thing. This was a different thing. Let's combine these things into one thing.
Like we don't have a lot of confidence in either idea.
Right.
Let's mash them together.
And if it would have stuck to one of those things, I like the idea of poachers and shitty people buying dinosaurs to I love that. That's such a cool. That would have been a good movie. Or the first half would have been a good movie, but I would have loved for the movie to end when that dinosaur died.
So you wanted another movie of island stuff, or you would have enjoyed? You're just saying that felt complete.
Yeah, when the dinosaur fell and they left, and they're like, "Well, dinosaurs are coming everywhere." I mean, they should have kind of been like, maybe showing a scene where they're kind of getting loose or something, like going all over the place. I like the idea of them coming to the United States. It's super cool, but the fact that it felt like two things that weren't transitioned well enough together to justify them existing in the same movie, I don't like that, man.
It's just weird. Like I don't really feel like I have an issue with like what the structure of the movie was. I feel like I like that demarcation area of like, this is the island, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is us now taking these, what now are almost being looked at as animals, these exotic animals.
Right.
Yes.
To these rich, wealthy people, and like show the human greed and how dangerous that is.
That's another pivot. These have gone from monsters to animals that we should protect.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And
to dinosaurs that can read and jump out in front of explosions.
I don't know. It's just. I feel like though when it gets to that point though, it gets really hammy and like really kind of cheesy. Man. Like Rafe Spall's character, like the pivot he makes is like so sudden
but it's also telegraphed.
It's like so weak.
It was sudden and telegraphed.
You know what telegraphed that change? Him turning heel. Outside of the fact that he's a British guy in a Jurassic Park movie, is that when he first comes down the stairs, did you notice that the score like swelled? Like, what a nice man.
Yeah.
Him coming down the stairs.
Super weird.
And it was like, okay, there's no way that guy stays nice, there's no reason that they would introduce him like smiling and innocent. I'm in it for the right reasons,
And they have the back turn thing that they do with a lot of villains. Like, he's like, absolutely, I'll take care of it. I won't take care of it. Right. That happened a lot, man. Like, he did that a lot, and I was like, "What am I looking at?"
What just happened too quick, I think. And and even when you see his character and who he really is, I feel like they even tried to like play James Cromwell's character. Like, is he involved?
Right. Is he the guy with the dark secret?
Yeah. Does he know about this? And like, he's like hiding it from his granddaughter, and it's like, what is going on here? To not be the case, But like, I don't know.
That scene was weird, where James Cromwell figures out that Rafe Spall is evil, and he's like, "Go pick up that phone over there and call the police."
Yeah,
it's like who's gonna do that?
Yeah,
if that was me, I'd be like, "Oh, I dropped the phone. I can't call the police on myself."
Yeah.
So even if he wasn't gonna smother him with the pillow, it's like, who goes? Hey, you just confessed something horrible to me. Go over there and tell the cops.
Confess your sins.
That's not a plan.
Who does that, man?
James Cromwell. That won't do.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess
I love that Babe reference. Sorry, I was trying not to laugh at it. It was a good reference. Thank you.
I definitely.
Thank you, Ronald.
I did not hate the movie. I mean, like I still thought parts of it were fun. I mean, we kind of had this thread going where like we were kind of shitting on it, but like.
And I was like, guys, I'm sorry, I didn't hate it.
No,
but I also saw it with a 10-year-old, and I knew that people were saying shit about it.
Yeah.
And so what I admired was that it did do something different. It was so for me, I'm really glad that they now have this next one teed up to be the different thing that we thought we were going to see all along, which might be like suburban streets. And I think that has some juice, just the visuals of it, because that's what this is to me now, is like trading cards brought to life of dinosaurs running down the street. Like I don't need a great story. I'm not expecting great characters. The only thing I hope is that they don't pull a bait and switch like they did with Jeff Goldblum in the trailer, and have that be a selling point that turns out to be nothing.
Yeah.
Well, Sam Neill is going to be in this third movie. There's no doubt, right? I mean, it's not announced, but there's like it's happening.
Well, I mean, bring back anybody. I like those actors.
Sam Neill,
bring them back. I love them.
Here's the problem. Because the tone of this ended the way that it is, it's gonna be like that Transformers movie with the kids in the middle of the Transformers. They're gonna have some teenagers, right? And they're gonna be in the middle of the world with these dinosaurs. Somebody's gonna befriend one dinosaur that's small enough and obedient enough.
And it goes like,
I'm telling you, man, like they're 3 years from now, that movie's gonna be made. It's teenagers in this world, like that Transformers movie that just flopped. Gonna be the same thing.
Now, Ronald, you didn't like the smiling dinosaur, but just imagine a dinosaur who turns and pulls his sunglasses down and gives you a wink.
Oh yeah, boom, boom. That's how it's gonna end.
And that's how this episode ends.
Yeah.
We just finished up an episode, guys.
Cool.
That's part one of our epic catch-up.
That was fun, man.
So should people see Jurassic World real quick?
I find it hard to believe that anyone who was on the fence about this movie is still waiting. But if you were wondering, I don't think... God, we so often are so generous with these movies. I'm gonna say, wait for it.
I'm gonna say wait for it too.
I'll go with that. I'll say wait for it.
Say wait for it.
Do better next time.
Everybody
Jurassic
has a
World.
nice home theater now.
Yes.
This movie will be great on your home
It
theater.
will
It'll
be.
be a great test of the surround sound and the 4K and everything.
I did like all the callbacks in this movie to like the original Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Like I love the last shot, like in the first Jurassic Park when Sam Neill and the kids are driving and you see like the pelicans or the birds flying over the ocean.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it's like the pterodactyls or whatever flying over. It's cool shit. Like there's a lot of those little things in it, and I appreciate that.
I liked the shot of the Velociraptor in the desert.
Yeah.
And you realize there's that scene in the first
Yeah.
one where he's in the American desert and he's talking about raptors and everything. And so it's kind of cool that they're back where they started and all that
Right.
shit. I like that.
It's
And
cool. That's cool. I don't know. Hopefully they can get it going. Yeah, I'd say, wait for it. Oh, this guy's a wait for it.
Yeah.
And hopefully the next one is a little better.
Maybe.
Yeah, well.
It's gonna have teenagers and Transformer-like interactions, but we'll see.
You think the dinosaurs are going to transform into anything?
What was that cartoon when we were kids? Was it like Denver the Last Dinosaur? Or Dino the Last Dinosaur?
It was
Remember
Denver the Last Dinosaur.
Denver?
The last dinosaur. He's my friend and a whole lot more.
That's the end.
As always, you've made our day.
Bye.
And thank you for your service, Jerome.